Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Megan McPherson. Checking back in on breaking news in Burnsville, we're waiting to hear back from police about an overnight investigation off Highway 11 and East 121st Street. That is just south of Highway 13 East. Take a look at the scene around 2:30 this morning. You can see the parking lot of this apartment taped off and several police cars there. Right now, we aren't sure what happened. We did reach out to police just before we came on air. We'll update you as soon as we know more. Developing now, a second F-15E crew member of a two-seat fighter jet that went down in Iran Friday is now safe after U.S. forces rescued them. Now all attention is on a possible ceasefire deal to stop the fighting in Iran. NBC's Chris Pallone has the details.
President Trump making a somewhat rare appearance in the White House briefing room this afternoon to take questions from reporters after a tense weekend which saw Iran shoot down a U.S. fighter jet, the two airmen from that jet rescued, and a new profanity-laden threat from the president to the Iranian regime with a new looming deadline. The Pentagon says the second crew member of an American F-15 shot down in Iran Friday is now safe after a daring rescue deep in Iranian territory over the weekend. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle praising the dangerous but successful mission.
Well, I'm thankful that a second U.S. airman has been rescued heroically by our special forces.
It speaks to the courage, the bravery, and the commitment to service of our armed forces.
But that's where the agreement ends as the U.S. and Israel continue to bombard Iranian targets, and Iran fires back at Israel and other U.S. allies in the region. President Trump ramping up pressure on the Iranian regime in an expletive-laden Easter Sunday social media post, threatening to target the country's power plants and bridges if Iran doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's oil passes each year. Iran saying the strait will never return to its former state and promising to respond in kind.
Our armed forces would target any similar infrastructure that is owned or in any way or manner related to the United States.
President Trump has given mixed messages on when the war will end and whether he plans to send American troops into Iran.
It's in their interest to try to make a deal before the consequences rain down on them.
Democrats accuse the president of not knowing what he was getting into.
Now, Iran recognizes that, in fact, their control over the strait is even more strategically vital to them than the development of a nuclear weapon. And that is why strategically this war has been a failure.
So far, U.S. allies have resisted President Trump's calls to help secure the Strait of Hormuz so normal shipping can resume. It appears President Trump is giving Iran until tomorrow night to reach a ceasefire deal. Today, several outlets are reporting the two countries are exploring a 45-day ceasefire plan. But a White House official tells NBC News it's just one idea being discussed, and the president has not signed off on it. We're sure to learn more during the president's news conference this afternoon. In Washington, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
Let's take a live look from Washington this morning on day 51 of the Homeland Security shutdown. Right now, House Democrats are calling on Republicans to cut their Easter recess short and reopen the department. House lawmakers met Friday after the Senate passed a funding bill but did not advance it. And as the funding battle drags on, there's some good news for Homeland Security employees this morning. President Trump signed a memo directing the department to pay all of its employees. The move will help nearly 35,000 workers who have gone without paychecks since February. You might remember Trump signed a similar memo last week asking DHS to pay TSA workers. It's not clear how the White House will fund this latest round of paychecks. A new chapter starting this morning for one of Minneapolis's most iconic landmarks. Right now, the Basilica of St. Mary is partially closed for a major renovation project. Audrey Russo is at the Basilica with a closer look at the changes coming.
Yeah, today marks the first restoration of this type since the 1950s. They've actually closed off the front doors of the Basilica while this all goes on. So for the next year, parishioners are going to have to gather downstairs while the renovations happen above. Now, take a look at this video. This is from the Easter service yesterday. This is the last service they had with their old sound system, their old lighting system. Congregants will move downstairs while the $45 million project happens. Now, this lower level, according to the Basilica's website, can accommodate 440 people.
It's a bit of an adventure to go down there. We're so used to being worshiping up here. To go down there will be very different, but it's sort of an exciting adventure. And we keep our eyes on the goal, which is the interior restoration. And so next Easter, when you come back, this will be completely restored to the glory that the Basilica was in 1914 when we opened.
Now, over the past 2 years, they've worked on re-roofing and sealing the roof so that there's no water that gets in and damages the building any further. Now, in that downstairs worship space, there are going to be some changes. For example, there's not going to be any kneelers or any prayer candle racks, and that's because they've got some space constraints and some open flame restrictions. Public tours of the Basilica are also going to be paused during this project. Back to you.
Today, jury selection begins in the federal trial of the man accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at a Minneapolis ice cream shop. Police say back in October, Formosa Umar threw homemade firebombs into Fletcher's Ice Cream and Cafe twice. The bombs broke a window and set multiple chairs on fire. It's not clear why the shop was targeted. Happening today, history in space. NASA's Artemis 2 mission will begin their lunar flyby, traveling to the far side of the moon. The flyby is expected to start at about 1:45 p.m. And if you do have Netflix, you can watch it in real time over on the streaming service. NASA will also be live streaming starting at noon. And NASA says the crew is expected to reach a distance from Earth no human has ever traveled at about 6 p.m. The flyby is scheduled to finish at 8:20, and after that, the astronauts will start making their way back home. They are expected to splash down off the San Diego coast Friday, just after 7 p.m. NBC's Tom Costello spoke with the crew ahead of today's historic moment.
What are your emotions as you look back at Mother Earth?
You know, right away, you are humbled. The fact that 4 of us get to be out here just brings you to your knees.
An emotional morning on the Today Show. Savannah Guthrie back on the anchor desk months after her mom was taken from her Arizona home. Nancy Guthrie has been missing since January. Despite reviewing alleged ransom notes and thousands of tips, investigators say they have not made a break in the case. In a video message for her church's Easter service, Savannah said she's leaning on her faith right now.
I see a bright vision of the day when heaven and earth pass away because they are one, on earth as it is in heaven. When we celebrate today, this is what we celebrate. And I celebrate too. I still believe.
Tomorrow, voters in Wisconsin will choose who they want for the state Supreme Court. They'll be casting their ballots for either conservative Maria Lazar or liberal Chris Taylor. If Taylor wins, it would expand the liberal advantage to 5 seats to 2, giving Democrats more power on major issues, including abortion and redistricting.
Republicans have been on a losing streak for the Wisconsin judicial elections, and there are some donors who have pulled back, wanting to save their money for the fall, where there are going to be some big elections in Wisconsin and other states.
Experts are predicting Democrats will win, but as of March 24th, Marquette Law School poll found more than half of voters are still undecided in the race. In today's Communities That Care, a new vending machine in Burnsville is helping save lives. Here's how it's making a life-saving medication more accessible.
Just restocking all the Narcan that's been used.
As he restocks this vending machine, it's not being filled with convenience.
It's a necessity.
Mike Andrews,
getting to people who need it,
is stocking second chances.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you. We're trying to reduce harm in the community.
Reducing harm through this machine.
I restock typically once a week.
Inside the Burnhaven Library, filled with free Narcan, drug testing strips, and even basic care kits.
Some food items in them, Kleenex. Some of them have a hygiene kit.
Everything inside free of charge for Burnsville residents.
Put in your Burnsville zip code, enter that, then pick whichever selection you would like.
The initiative is supported by funds from the city's share of national opioid settlements and part of a push to prevent overdoses before first responders like Andrews are ever called.
You never know where or when you're going to meet somebody, or you maybe don't even know somebody you know has an addiction or tries it for the first time on overdoses.
That means getting resources directly into the hands of people who need them most, especially those who frequently rely on emergency services.
There's no stigma coming in. There's nobody sitting here watching over it.
One step forward in tackling a crisis that's far from over.
Take what you need and go on. You may save somebody's life.
In Burnsville, Megan McPherson, Kare 11 News.
Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.